Hey guys, how's it going? This is our weekly recap video where I take all of last week's videos and answer some questions that we saw come through. Before we get into that, just wanted to let you know I have dates for the Great Big Home and Garden Show in Cleveland, Ohio that we're going to be going to. So we will be there on February 8th and 9th. All the rest of the details for that show and the rest of the shows are on our website, gardenanswer.com/events. Okay, so let's get into the first video. It was the Amaryllis unboxing and planting. So in that video, I unboxed 15 beautiful, huge Amaryllis bulbs from Color Blends, and then we potted them up in just several different types of containers. Cannot wait to see them bloom. Sharon asked, I can't get them to bloom, only get lots of leaves. What's wrong? So I'm not sure if you are referring to like maybe one that you've tried to get bloom from last year, or if you're talking about bulbs that you've bought at the store and they haven't bloomed from you. Because when you buy an Amaryllis bulb at the store, it should have all the energy it needs to produce bloom stalks and blooms. So if all you're getting is leaves, I'm not sure that maybe you're getting them from a reputable source. If you're trying to keep them from year to year, we have done a video about that we'll link down below. It's a little bit of a process because you want to treat them as a houseplant after they're done blooming, and then usually like right around June you put them outside and let them have a nice summer outside, and then you bring them in, have to give them a cold dormancy period for 6 to 8 weeks. Then you bring them out and force them to bloom again. So it is a little bit of a process. If you want to learn more, just watch our video on that. Maria says, anyone else shocked about the choice of red? So at Christmas time, red goes for me. Usually I stay away from red flowers in my garden just because I do a lot of cool colors, a lot of pinks, purples, soft peach colors, and red just like clashes with all of that. It's not that I don't like red flowers, but at Christmas time, I do like classic Christmas red and all the colors that surround the holiday, so I don't mind filling my home with that color. Barbara said, I never thought about growing these, but maybe I'll try. How do you keep your cats from bothering them? I guess I need to make sure they're safe for dogs. I do believe they are toxic for all pets. My cats don't bug my houseplants. Russell bugs one houseplant. It's my burrito sedum, and he only does it when he wants to go outside. So as long as we get up and let him outside, he's like the king of the house. He kind of gets what he wants based on whether or not he's bugging my plant. But they don't bug my plants, and I'm not sure if that's because they're inside and outside cats, so they get to come out a lot. I'm not sure. If you have pets and inside your house and you're worried about it, maybe put Amaryllis somewhere where they can't get to them at all, or maybe skip it if you're really worried about it. Teresa said, just went to Color Blends and most of them are sold out. What's another quality resource to order from? I saw that comment a lot because Color Blends did sell out pretty quickly. I would check with your local garden center. I know my parents' garden center has a bunch of beautiful bulbs. In fact, I actually went and got some from there too because I thought it'd be really fun to try lots of different varieties this year. If not, if you don't have a good source nearby, try Gardener's Supply website. They've got a really good selection. They've got some exotics too that are a little bit more unusual and rare. We'll link that down below. Jennifer said, I'm wondering about moss. I can find a similar looking product at the dollar store or my local craft store. Is it the same thing, or is that moss bad for the plants? So I just used Spanish moss for the top dress on these. I like Spanish moss or preserved sheet moss from Super Moss brand. They're both really great, but the Spanish moss that you find in the little bags at the dollar store is totally fine. Go ahead and use it. William said, when does your Christmas decorating start around your house? It already has. Coco asks if there's a plant that I wish I could have, but I can't because of my gardening zone. Of course, there are lots of plants that I look at and I wish I could have and can't. Like there are some magnolias, like the beautiful ones with the great big waxy leaves that you can make wreaths out of. I love those plants and we can't grow those here. Crepe myrtles we can't grow. We can't grow rosemary over the winter. There is one variety called Hills Hardy that's hardy down to 0, but that's even iffy for us. So there are a few things. There's so many things we can grow here that I'm really thankful we can. So I don't know, I don't really think about it that much. Next video is pressed flower ornaments, which this project was really fun. Super easy, baking soda and cornstarch ornaments. And then we used Mod Podge to put some pressed flowers that I pressed from our garden. And it's such a fun way to preserve the garden. And I don't really have a lot of questions from that. I had a lot of really great suggestions that I thought I would share with you guys, because if I make another batch, which I probably will, I'm going to implement some of these things. Making Mud Pie says that they would look lovely doubling as gift tags on presents, and you could write on the back of them. Love that idea. MH94 said you could even Mod Podge on a photo and then put flowers around the edge. It's very sweet. Cora said, can you add fragrant oil to the baking soda mix? I think you could. I think you could add some drops of essential oil and make them smell really good, like peppermint. Very seasonal, or you could do lavender or any kind of herb. I think that's something I'm definitely going to try. Linda asked, can these be painted if you don't have the dried flowers? Now, I don't really know how paint would react with the baking soda cornstarch mix. I'm guessing, I mean, they're pretty hard and dry. I'm guessing it would be totally fine because we're painting on glue. So I would definitely give that a try. Joanne says that if you use 3/4 cup of warm tea instead of just plain old water, they'll have an antiqued look. Love that one. Encouraging Hope said, how long do the flowers have to be pressed to be ready for use? And then Kathy, this is kind of the same thing. Kathy said, can you elaborate on the pressing of flowers for those of us who've never done that? We recently put out a video with some tips on pressing flowers, so we'll link that down below and it has all that information. The last question on that video wasn't about the video, but Johnny Utah has been asking this question on the last several of our videos, so I thought I would answer it finally, Johnny. How is the Pendulum weeping spruce doing that you planted a couple of years back? It's doing really well. It likes its spot, it gets a lot of afternoon sun, it's staying compact. So I'm really liking it in its location. Brad asks, do you normally cut back roses this late? You know what, I do a lot of my cleanup in the fall, including roses. So in this video, I showed cutting back a climbing rose as well as a few landscape shrub type roses. And it's not something I necessarily recommend everybody do because it can open them up to winter damage. I don't do a hard prune, I save that for spring, but it's a lot easier to come through in the spring and cut a little bit off than it is to have to manage the whole entire shrub, unless they have really beautiful hips. I'll leave those on throughout the fall and winter because they're really beautiful to look at. So it's, like I said, it's not something I recommend everybody do. In fact, I think that most people will tell you to wait till the spring, and it depends too on your climate. Like if you live in a way colder climate than we do, we're zone 5, I probably would avoid cutting them back until spring. And then if you live in a warmer climate, you know, I would ask somebody at your local garden center what they recommend, what they do with their roses. I've had pretty good luck cutting them back softly, like not doing a hard cut back, just a little one in the fall. They've always come back for me really well. Michael says, is it okay to cut back an elderberry during its growing season for size control? That is actually the best time to size control or prune your elderberries right after they're done blooming. That way you get to enjoy the blooms, but you have to keep in mind that when you do prune it after they're done blooming, you will lose some of the berries if you're cutting off branches that have blooms. So it's just kind of like, you know, you want to site things in areas where they can just grow to their full size. That's the best. These elderberries that are in my garden were here when we moved in, but put something where it can just grow and you don't have to size control it. That way you can enjoy the full spectrum that shrub or plant offers. Lamb Mark says, my red twig dogwood has gotten leggy. Would you cut it back in the fall? No, I would wait until spring. And typically what the professionals recommend, and I learned this, that you can do it one of two ways. You can either go in the spring and cut out 1/3 of the oldest branches and kind of just open up the shrub a little bit, or every other year you can cut it back really hard, the whole thing, because your freshest bright red color will happen on new wood. So if you kind of keep your shrubs on a pruning schedule, either that 1/3 every single year or cut back harder every other year, you'll have nice color all the time. But I wouldn't prune it back in the fall because we have red twig dogwoods to be able to enjoy them through the winter. So keep it until spring and then cut it back. Denise says, how can we know what's safe to cut back now and what not to touch because it could cause winter damage? You know, it does take a lot of research. Honestly, like I could come up with a list for my growing zone because I'm very familiar with my growing zone, and it would probably like translate to, you know, maybe a zone colder or a zone warmer than I am. But I would definitely check with gardeners in your area, check with your extension office, your local garden center, and they should be able to tell you what's good for your area because everybody's plants, they react differently depending on your climate. LB says, it feels good to get done, doesn't it? Yes. I'm so excited to see what you do in the part of the yard. Please show it all beginning to end, including the planting. So I did mention at the end of that video that Aaron and I are planning kind of a complete redo on that back garden area, and I'm really excited for it because right now, you guys know, like there's a fence that's blocking it off so it doesn't really feel like it's part of our garden. The elm tree helped us out by breaking part of it. I can see it right now. So we are planning on removing that fence and doing something very different, and we will include you guys on every single step so you'll be able to see the whole entire process. So this spring is going to be wild. There's some really big branches in the crown of that elderberry. They form a dense center and pretty much all touch each other. Do you ever remove them? I tend to not do it when they're this big. I like the center of my plants to breathe. Is there a reason not to? So there were a lot of crossing branches and a lot of thick ones I probably will take out, but actually my plan is after I got done with that whole cleanup, I think in the spring I'm gonna go in and just shear the entire thing back, like cut it all the way to the ground and let it go grow completely fresh because a lot of those branches are really old and I just wanna rejuvenate that plant. If I was gonna leave it though, I probably would go in and kind of like you would if there's a rose or a tree, you know, if you've got crossing branches that are rubbing on each other, cut one of them off and create some nice air circulation within the center of your plant. Lisbeth asks, Laura, do you have any recommendations for other gardening YouTube channels? You guys will always be my favorite. Thank you. I do have some recommendations, people I like to watch. So for houseplants, check out Plantarina. Amanda is awesome. She puts out really regular content and it's really helpful, but it's not just even just strictly houseplant information. She does some DIYs, like some really neat ways on displaying your houseplants, and she goes over like decorating with them inside your home, which I find very helpful. Organic gardening, check out MI Gardener. Tons of videos, lots of really good information. Impatient Gardener, where does she live? Wisconsin? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's actually fairly similar growing season as we do. I feel like we're always one step behind or in front of each other with the same kind of gardening projects, because depending on our season, but we have a lot of similar plants in our gardens, and it's just fun to see what she's up to. And then Y Garden is also a really neat channel. I think she's a landscape designer or architect, and she's got a really beautiful style, and I like to watch that. I like to see, she does tours of her like past designs, and I think that's really neat to kind of hear what the garden was before, and then to see it kind of in its more mature state, which is something we don't get to do a lot here because we're doing so much destruction and there's a lot of new beginnings, but it's going to take a while to show you guys end results. And it's fun to bring you along for the whole process, but I can't wait to get some years on this place so we can show you kind of my vision for the end result. Anyway, we'll link all of those channels down below. Mary says, do you ever wear socks with your shoes in the winter? I always have socks on. I call them no-see-em socks, which Aaron laughs at. I actually think that is a brand or something though, but they're little socks that you can't see when I'm wearing my Vans. I do need to rethink my footwear situation though, because they're starting to fall apart and it's starting to get cold. I need to do something different. Next video is called What Size of Auger Do You Need for Planting? I think that's what we titled it. In that video, I just went through a whole bunch of different auger sizes and what I feel like they're good for. I shared kind of my past experience with other types of augers and what we're doing now. And then we have a huge auger now to help us dig big holes, so we demonstrated that. Have you ever introduced us to Chris? We need a Who is Chris video. So I did mention that we had helped to plant all the tulip bulbs. In fact, he's been helping us with a lot of stuff this fall, get through a lot of our big projects, because you guys, there's no way we could put out as many videos as we do and take care of a garden this big and have time for our son without help. And we've had a lot of help throughout the years. Like right now, Chris is the man. Like, he is helping us out a ton. We had a guy named Joe here this spring that helped us with big jobs like mulch, stuff I don't necessarily need to be doing. We've had a family named the Shippies that have helped us throughout the years a lot. Like, they helped take out all the big privets. They brought their tractor in and pulled them out. Their boys helped dig all the holes for all of these North Pole arborvitaes, and 130 5-gallon size boxwoods after we ripped out those privets. Hey, Russell. And that was at a point where I was pregnant and I couldn't, and I shouldn't be digging all of those big holes. And then we do have help inside our house. We've had the same gal who's helped us with some cleaning throughout the years, because that's something that very early on in Aaron and my marriage, we decided, let's budget for this. We need to have help cleaning because that's the only thing we ever thought about. So we eliminated the problem, and she's been with us for like 12 years and she's amazing. So anyway, all that to say, like, I just wanted to let you know we do have help throughout the years and with big projects and things like that, and that's how we are able to get it done. Holly asks, can you use one of these in the clay in Tennessee? So she's referring to one of the Power Planter augers. They actually had a demonstration, I think, on their website or in a video that they put together showing it digging in clay. Like, our soil is mildly clay. Some of you probably look at it and say that's not clay at all. Like, you have no idea what clay is like. Our soil will hold a form, but he was showing it in like thick clay. Like, it was shooting out pieces of like formed clay soil. So they're supposed to go and cut through anything like that. It also probably comes down to how nice of a drill you have as well. You need to make sure you've got one that's powerful enough to like take it. Sherry says, can you buy the handle for the drill separately since I already have a drill without a handle? I'm guessing I would maybe get on their website and see what accessories they offer based on what brand you have. They should sell them separately if they don't. Karen says, do you worry about underground water pipes or electrical lines? So we actually, and I don't mention it enough, but you should always call a dig line before you start, digging deep holes in your ground. Of course, we know where everything's at except for our water system. We know where all the electrical and gas lines are because we've had everything located several times because we've had so many big projects go down on this property. So the only thing we don't know about is if we're going to hit a water pipe, because our water system is really weird. We're not sure, like we came in on somebody else's system. There's actually 3. There's 2 abandoned systems underneath the ground. So every once in a while we hit a pipe that doesn't belong to anything that's currently working. And then sometimes we hit a live pipe. So we just make repairs as we go along, and eventually we'll know where everything's at. Davik says, can I still plant bulbs? If you can still dig a hole in the ground, you can still plant bulbs. Move the snow aside. If you can get that auger down into the ground, you can still put a bulb down in there, and it should bloom for you in the spring. The last video was better late than never, planting garlic. So in that video, I just talked about planting garlic, which is something that I do every single fall. Almost missed it this year because I completely forgot to plant it. And then I just talked about how our falls are weird and it's been really dry. It's cold, like you can see my breath probably. But I thought this would be a pretty background with the willow this morning. The light was pretty. But we are getting no moisture, and there's no moisture on the 10-day. We haven't had rain in like over a month. So I had to get sprinklers out. Like our irrigation system's blown out because it gets so cold it would freeze, but plants still need water. So anyway, Lola said, something about my camera. So when I turned the sprinkler on, I got my camera all wet. I thought I had it out of the frame or out of the area far enough away, and I didn't. And so Aaron, I see, is going to include a nice screenshot of how many times he's had to replace my vlog camera. Yeah, I go through a lot of cameras. Renee says, thank you for mentioning the Impatient Gardener. Can anyone recommend other gardening YouTubers? Just did it. Bonnie said, how did you just hook up that hose? Is that a quick connect? Yes. I think we're actually going to do a video on quick connects, as riveting as that sounds. But there are like 4 or 5 different brands of quick connects, and I think that it's such an amazing thing. It's helped me out so much in our own garden, like amazingly, like this little piece of metal, that I think that it deserves its own video. So that one was a brass quick connect from Dram, which we have on all of our hoses. We recently tried out some new ones that I think are going to be very helpful in other situations. So anyway, be waiting for that video. That'll probably be a really good wintertime video. Amy says, Laura, what is the brand of that little sprinkler? It's perfect. I'm pretty sure that's a Gilmore brand sprinkler. I think that's all we've got in the barn right now. How often do you water the garlic after you plant them? So this late in the season, I'm going to check on it once a week, because like today it's supposed to get up to 62 degrees, which is crazy. Like we had a super cold October and now it's starting to warm up a little bit. So I'll give it probably a little bit of water once a week here for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll back off and maybe give it one more watering, and then I'll leave it until spring, and we'll hopefully get some snow. If it's super dry and we never get snow, I'll probably toss a little bit of water, just like maybe twice during the course of the winter, just to make sure that that soil doesn't completely dry out. And that's it, you guys. That's all the questions that I have for today's video. Just want to encourage you to leave comments beneath our videos on YouTube. That's where we're pulling all of these from. So if you have a question, just keep on asking it, and it will probably show up in one of these Monday videos at some point. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.